To speak on behalf of Nike, to show my work at Nike, of course, easy peasy. Look at me being fabulous. Look how wonderful I am as a senior director at Nike. Zero issues with bragging. But then when you are a business owner or a founder, all of a sudden it's you. You have to sell you. And that brings so much shit up. So the biggest misconception actually isn't the time, it is having to daily face yourself in the mirror and saying, no, I believe in my business. I'm here to help people. And the only way to help people is if people know what I do.
Well, hello and welcome back to the show. I am really happy that you're here, as always, joining me for an inspiring conversation with yet another woman in her 40s who has left corporate now, this time after a very successful, happy career. And she's building something of her own. She's building her next chapter, her second act. And it's really exciting to share this episode and this story with you. Today's guest is someone actually that I connected with through a business coaching program we were both part of. And I felt like I was speaking to someone who had lived a version of my own story, which is why I cannot wait for you to hear this conversation. We share so many of the same experiences in our business journey now that it really just reflects back to you how similar this journey is that women share when they leave a 9-to-5 role or they leave corporate, leaving a corporate role, and they step into entrepreneurship and building their own business. Today's guest, her name is Samantha Flores. She spent 19 years in corporate and most recently as a senior director of digital commerce for Nike Europe. She spent 19 years at Nike, actually, responsible recently for Middle East and Africa, leading a $2 billion business. She was born and raised in Curacao, has lived and worked across 5 countries, and brings this rare combination of Caribbean warmth and such sharp executive presence into everything she does, it seems. So it's been really exciting talking to Samantha about her journey and how this journey, working your way up the ranks and building a career in corporate, is so different to building a business of your own. And especially as a mom, building a sustainable business, a holistic business, a coaching business, it's very interesting to learn from Samantha's journey and what she has experienced and how she's tackled it. After nearly 2 decades climbing the ladder in corporate, she founded the Powerhouse Code, where she helps international women in senior corporate roles land that next level leadership position. And in January of this year, she made the leap to leave corporate for good. So it's a big step. She's officially stepped into her second act, into her new chapter. And what I love about Samantha's story is that she did not leave bitter, disappointed, or after a burnout, which so many have experienced. She leaves full of excitement, full of passion for her work, full of clarity and conviction, and full of a vision for what she is building now. And maybe that's also what connected us really deeply and in a very special way. We're both very excited about the things we're building and about our career, about the work we're doing and the impact we want to make. And we're very passionate as people, as women. And I think it just rubs off on you when you speak to someone that's very similar in that way. So I love speaking and learning from women like that. So in this conversation, we go deep on what actually made her corporate career so successful and why high-performing women stay stuck often, even with the best performance reviews. The very real comparison trap that you have that comes with leaving a big brand name behind, and what it looks like to build a small business, a solopreneur business from scratch when you have spent 2 decades being excellent on someone else's terms. Yes, very interesting conversation. Samantha and I, we talked about so many things that we experienced in a similar way. There was the hiding behind a big brand name, or that we realized it was quite a lot easier marketing and promoting a big brand than it is when it's just your little business baby. The ease of being visible when you are representing Nike or a company of that size, and then suddenly having to sell yourself, just you, with no logo behind you. The comparison that creeps in, the voices that get louder the moment you step out from behind the safety net of corporate. We both came from big corporate spaces. We both built our professional identities there for a long time. And we both found ourselves at a point asking the same question: is this all there is? Well, to be honest, when it comes to my career journey, I have always had little side projects and experimented along the way. But it was very hard and tricky for me to put my name on any of these projects and promote them in the way that I should have. But back to Samantha's story. That experience is exactly why this conversation felt so real. We were not performing an interview. We didn't script anything. I think I wrote my questions down half an hour before I interviewed Samantha. But I have to admit, I actually followed her journey for a little while. So I knew the space that she was in. I knew the kind of work that she was doing. But still, I think it's my own curiosity that leads me to ask the kind of questions that I'm asking. So, and I'm certainly not asking AI to give me the questions. Just a side note. We were 2 women who have actually lived through this experience now, and we're still in it. We're still in that journey, sitting down and being honest about how disorientating, exciting, uncomfortable, and necessary this next chapter really is. So, thank you so much for joining us today. And just before we get into today's episode, I want to tell you about the Sunday Shift. It's my weekly newsletter for women over 40 who are done being invisible and ready to be found online without all the camera performance, building authentic visibility. Every Sunday, you get one woman who made it work and what you can take from her. One framework you can steal for your own story and positioning. And one question that gets you one step closer to the right people saying yes to what you have to offer. It lands in your inbox on Sunday. Then you take your time to read it and you start the next week differently. You can find the link in the show notes. It's on mamawhatsnext.com/subscribe. It's called the Sunday Shift and it's free. So now let's get back into today's episode. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to Mama What's Next, Samantha. I'm really happy that you're joining me today.
Thank you, Mel. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, This is going to be a very exciting session because we both obviously have lived through the world of corporate
Yeah.
marketing, corporate business, and we have met through a business coach, where a
Mhm.
great program we've both been a part of. It's already quite a while back, so it's going to be so interesting to hear about your journey since then and what's been happening for you. But first of all, your career, like you've spent, I think, 19 years at
19
Nike.
years. Yeah, just under 20.
Amazing. And I'm sure, there's a reason, obviously, why it's been that long.
Yeah.
And you've obviously built your career there and had a really successful career journey in corporate. I would like you just to explain just your background and your journey up to this point now, where you've come from and what it's been like.
Absolutely. So I was in corporate for 19 years, indeed. I started out in investment banking in London, actually, because from the very young age, I think 10, from the age of 10, I had this vision and this goal that I was going to be an investment banker. So I've always wanted to have a very, very, let's say, successful career. So my whole purpose in life, the only goal I had was to climb the ladder and make it to, well, at the time it was investment banker. But then my first 3 months as an investment banker, I'm like, this is not for me. But anyway, I was always very, very career focused and career oriented. So if you look back at my 19 years, my most recent position, so the last position that I had, I was senior director of digital commerce for Nike, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Huge responsibility, $2 billion business, big team. And I had achieved what I always wanted. But then, Mel, I'm sure you get many women on the show who then turn 40, and then all of a sudden it's like, hold on a minute. Is this all there is? And so, even when I was still in corporate, having this very demanding role, leading team, leading the business, I felt like it was time to create something for, well, not for me, actually, for my audience, and to help others to achieve, let's say, a successful career as well. So back in 23, when I was still in corporate, I founded Powerhouse Code. So while I was still working full time, I started building Powerhouse Code. Is where I help high performing women who feel stuck in a career to continue growing. And I've never thought that this would be my path, because I was certain that I would end up like a CEO and have very, like I said, successful career and be in a boardroom making big decisions, tough decisions. And yet here I am. And I left corporate in January of this year, January 26th, after 19 years.
Wow. So thank you, Sam. I First of all, I'm wondering what made the career so successful. Like, you're obviously talking about it, not like a woman over 40 that has left disgruntled and
Yeah.
struggling. You're like glowing, excited to talk about your career journey, with
Yeah.
Nike, and, what made it successful.
What made it successful? So, first of all, I'm a very results oriented person and very goal oriented person. And so I knew what I wanted. And just like, for example, when you're leading the business, I was leading in digital commerce, you have goals to reach, you have targets to hit. And that's how I approached my career as well. I had my goals, I had my targets for myself, my personal targets, and I just did everything that was needed to get there. Now, in the beginning, I thought, when you come from university and you think, well, the harder I study, the better my grade, I progress to the next step. It doesn't work like that in corporate. So it took me quite some time to figure out how it does work, and that my success and my progression was not based only on my performance. It's based on presence, on visibility, strategic visibility, on your positioning. So that's a whole different language that I had to learn and to discover as I grew my career. and let go of my performance will get me there. And that's a mistake that I see so many professionals make, that they're like, oh, I got the best performance review, therefore I'm getting the promotion. But that might actually be what's keeping them stuck. And so, to come back to your question, for me, it was twofold. One, being very clear on my personal goals and my personal targets. Secondly, learning the language of progression in corporate, which is extremely different than what we're taught in at university, and how the first part of the career works. And then thirdly is being passionate about what I do. So I did seek out roles where I was really good at what I did. So working with numbers, leading big businesses, making decisions, etc., and then bring my energy and passion, which I bring to everything that I do. So those were the three things that made it a successful career.
Wow. Do you think that when you talk about strategic visibility, right, in career journey, do you see a difference between women and men?
100%. Hands down. Hands
Explain.
down, yes. So I think men are more natural. They're more natural at just being present in spaces that might be intimidating for some. And so I want to focus on the women specifically. Women have, other than their performance, showing up in the workplace and all of that, most of the women have a whole set of limiting beliefs holding them back. So while a woman shows up in an important meeting with senior leaders, she's not even focusing only on being visible or giving the best presentation. She has this whole internal narrative going on in her minds. Who is there? What are they looking at her? How are they looking at her? If she says something, is her manager going to think she's overstepping? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is she good enough to be in that room? So this internal script and this internal narrative that is running the show for many women, and I'm not saying all of the women, for many women is preventing them to be visible to begin with, because there's this lack of confidence and imposter syndrome of, I'm not good enough. Am I overstepping? Is my manager going to be pissed at me if I speak up, et cetera, et cetera? And by the time they get through that internal script and that internal narrative, the meeting is already over. So that's number one. And number two, there's this belief that I'm not ready yet. I need to have the position, the title, the next role before I'm worthy of speaking up and being visible. So those are the things that I see. And again, not with all of the women, but with most of the women. There's a whole different set of blockers, I would say, holding women back of being visible, strategically visible. Yeah.
It's quite sad, actually. And when you were talking now, I've spoken to women like you, like leadership coaches,
Yeah.
right? And what I hear also from you speaking now, there's a lot like the blockers that are holding us back from becoming more visible. Essentially, there's a lot of societal programming in there.
Absolutely.
And also shining through your language now,
Yeah.
there's women being so conscious, not just what colleagues are thinking, but what is potentially what's your boss thinking of you? What are the other people? Am I overstepping? Am I doing this wrong? Am I wearing the right thing? If I'm saying so, it's as a society, women are always under this shining light of, is she adhering to all the principles and all the, all the things that we say she needs to be and she needs to fulfill, right? And
Yeah. It's a lot. And then what also happens is then they get home and they continue to replay that meeting or how they showed up or the email they sent or the reply. So it's a lot of bandwidth that is going to the overthinking, the second guessing, the lack of confidence, the imposter syndrome, and then delivering the job itself. So let alone speaking up, being strategically visible. Like it's hard for many women.
yeah.
Yeah.
And why did you manage to do it? What did you bring that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, in the beginning, Mel, I had all of that as well. But you know what? So going back to the goal, and this is an interesting that I always say, because I'm so goal oriented, so result oriented, at some point, and everything I was doing was not working. Getting great performance review, staying exactly stuck. So all the things that we do, right? And there came a point that what I was doing was not working. And then I said, okay, what does the goal need from me? What do I need to do differently in order to reach the goal? So I started to look at it differently instead of where I was at getting to the goal. Now going there in the future, saying, hey, imagine if I'm already there, what am I doing differently? And then I started asking my question, what does that goal require from me? What does it take? And am I willing to do that? And that is then where this whole unlearning came into play. Everything that was keeping me small, that was keeping me in the background, the imposter syndrome, the limiting beliefs, I had to let go of all those things. Otherwise, I would not achieve my goal. And that's what, let's say, I work with a lot of women. They come in and they say, give me the strategy, say, tell me what to do. But a lot of the work is, well, what should you stop doing instead of what should you start? Because if you're starting something, or let's say, let me give you an example. If you want to climb a mountain and your goal is at top of the mountain, the promotion, the next step, etc., is at top of the mountain, but you have this heavy backpack filled with your lack of confidence, your limiting belief, your imposter syndrome, and all those narratives that are keeping you back, you're not going to get to the top. You're not going to get to your goal. And so that's about shedding all the things, letting go of that backpack, and then let's talk about the strategies in order to get you there.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's complex.
It is, well, and rightfully so, much more complex for women,
I know, which
because
is why.
men just don't or didn't have to
No,
deal with all of this
no,
stuff.
no. And I do have men sometimes come up to me that they have, for example, if they're introverted or more shy, they may experience the same things, but it's a much smaller percentage versus women who I am confident saying 90% of women experience this versus maybe 20% of men.
There you go. Yeah. And it's
Yeah,
not, and it's not even our fault, because you might look at it, superficially going, oh,
yeah,
women, it's their
yes,
problem because they attach everything to everything. It's like they can't think separately.
yeah,
It's got nothing to do even with that. It's the way
correct.
we brought up. It's the way society deals with us. It's the way we have interviews, even at companies, that
Yeah.
situations that men never have to deal with, right?
Exactly. And they also have this reference of men who are visible being the stereotypical loud person, biggest voice in the room, bragging all the time. And then they will probably think, well, if that's what it takes to get there, then forget it. I don't even want to progress my career because they think that's the only way. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think that's been my experience as well, because when you're not like that,
Yeah,
it makes you believe you have to become this person, this performance. You have to put on this show of
absolutely.
someone
Yeah.
that you might not actually want to be, right?
No, no, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
and
yeah.
yeah, and we had this in I think I think it was the girl boss area as well, where that narrative was driven quite a
Yeah.
bit, that women have to step up and we have to be bold and we have to perform and
Yeah.
be like a man to make it in the world.
Exactly. And I'm going to go one step further and say there are still women out there in the C suite, in senior leadership meetings or senior leadership teams that are very masculine because they grew up in corporate in a time where feminine leadership was not valued or welcome at all. So we are in a different era right now, but you still have those women in the C suite, in senior leadership teams that are very masculine and one of the boys, because during their time progressing, it was either you're in with a boys club or you're out. So we still have that as well. And that's even tougher for women to look up and see those role models that are not embodying that feminine leadership energy.
Thank
Still
you.
out there.
So, What do you think with your business journey now and building visibility and strategic visibility, right? When we come to like your strategies, when did you start
Yeah.
building the
Yeah.
Powerhouse Code, which is essentially a platform for
Yeah.
women?
So this is very interesting, Mel, because in my corporate career, I feel like I was so confident and I was so comfortable and I knew exactly what I was doing and where I was going. And then I thought, well, when I become a business owner or founder, it's going to be the same Sam, the same confidence, the same strategies. I got this. But then becoming a business owner and a founder is a whole different game. Like it's personal growth on steroids. And I'm going to tell you, every time I post on LinkedIn, on Instagram, or a podcast episode releases, there's still this like, oh, did I actually do that? So it's so funny because this business is becoming a mirror for myself, that in corporate I had zero issues. And now that I'm building a business, I feel it completely different. So I still have, so when you ask when did I start building it? So back in 23 when I was still in corporate, mostly through Instagram at the time because, I was a leader at Nike and I didn't want those two things to middle. I'm now becoming more visible on LinkedIn as well, but I still have these voices in my head that are running the show. But the difference is, Mel, that I'm very conscious about it because this is what I teach, actually. This is what I share with the women. And this was my journey in corporate that I overcame. But now that I'm building a business, there's a lot of what if I fail? I know I'm successful in corporate, but will I be successful as a business owner? And did I give all of this up and then I'm going to fail publicly? Because that's the thing. When you're on Instagram, when you're on LinkedIn, you have to be visible as a business owner. So everybody can see your journey so they can also see the failures. If they're there, it's public failure. And so I'm going through those waves at the moment and constantly reminding myself that there's no such thing as failure. There's only learnings. And then people actually find it refreshing to hear the stories that things don't always go, or people are not always directly successful. So that's the things that the narrative I'm telling myself lately to get me to the point where I was in corporate, extremely confident, but zero, fear of judgment, failure, and all the things.
If you're in a similar journey and if you are at a similar point in your career journey now and you need help with your visibility strategy, you need help articulating what you do, positioning yourself, and creating an easy visibility system that doesn't run on AI, but it runs on conversation, just like I do here with the podcast, in a very authentic way, building authentic visibility and using that type of positioning and messaging to build your own holistic business, your own practice, then I'm so incredibly happy to be supporting you. So please do reach out, and I would love nothing more than to help and support.